Tulsi Gabbard, hey, she went on the Dave Rubin show. Woo! What made that happen? Woo! Tulsi Gabbard on the Dave Rubin show has been the talk of the day, the weeks already. Since Sunday, it's like, wow, this is going on. Everybody's talking about it. I got to admit, there were parts of it that really caught me. Kind of got my goat a little bit. I'm going to talk about them. But, hey, what can you say? Tulsi Gabbard, people that are shocked that Tulsi Gabbard went on the Dave Rubin show, I don't know where you've been. She's been going on all types of outlets for a while. I'm all for Tulsi Gabbard going wherever the hell she wants to go. Not that she would care what I think anyway, right? I'm nobody to her. But the point is, I support people making their own decisions. And as long as you are honest and you're not bending to the will of whoever's platform you're on, who cares? But herein lies the problem. I got a couple of problems with things that were said during this interview. And when I say I have a problem, it just means my eyes are a little bit more open about who Tulsi Gabbard really is. All right, so, and it depends on what your ideology is, what you think about that. I'm going to play a couple clips about Tulsi Gabbard, and one I don't agree with, and the other I do agree with. Let me play the one I don't agree with. So let me give you the bad medicine first, so you'll know if you want to stop watching the show today or not.
I'm trying to remember, in that first debate, did you speak Spanish?
I did not.
You did not.
No.
So that to me was sort of like the perfect example of, I think you know this about me, like, I mean, identity politics to me,
Yeah.
I truly believe that it is the most dangerous force in American politics today, because it is what will turn us, it's the reverse of what the American dream was founded on, that we would look at each other by skin color and gender and sexuality and all of those things.
I agree with that.
And watching the other candidates do it, and if you had done it too, I would still be saying the same thing. It struck me as the worst sort of pandering of like, do these people not speak English? And if they don't speak English, perhaps we should speak English so that they learn English, so they can be more assimilated and integrated, and all of those things. And yet identity politics seems to have completely taken over.
Yeah, there was a woman, we did a 4th of July parade, a bunch of them actually in New Hampshire. It was right after that first set of debates, and it made an impact on me. There was a woman who was sitting with her family and friends at the end of one of the parades, so we stopped and we said hi, and she was from Central America, and she made it a point to pull me aside, and she put her hands on my arm. She was very serious, and she said, whatever you do in a future debate, don't speak Spanish. She found that to be so patronizing and blatantly so. And I think that the identity politics that are being used, again, to further divide us, to further drive separations between us, and purely for selfish political gain, is a real danger. I agree with you. It undermines that unity that we have. That doesn't come with groupthink or saying, well, hey, we're all exactly the same, we think the same way. Not at all.
Yeah.
It's that unity that we have in recognizing our diversity and our strength and who we are as Americans, and the principles and freedoms that make up the bedrock of our country.
All right, so there it is right there. There it is. So Dave Rubin, he said that identity politics is the biggest threat to our politics today. And Tulsi Gabbard said, I agree. I totally disagree. Here's why. I thought money in politics was our biggest threat. Not blacks and Latinos or LGBTQ and Muslims and Native Americans and everybody having separate. I thought that it was money. Thought it was corruption. I thought that's why we don't have health care for all. I didn't know it was because Black Lives Matter was outside, or Kaepernick took a knee, or women wanted the Me Too movement to expand, or I thought it was because we can't get the freaking politicians to keep their hands out of the wallets, or keep their hands in their pockets, or stop taking money. I thought that was our biggest threat. And I thought that's what you thought too, Tulsi. And I get that Dave doesn't, because he's a Republican, basically. Oh, no, he's classic liberal. code for Republican. Okay, so maybe some people don't think, everybody's got their, maybe some people don't think that money in politics is our main problem. I thought it was, but okay, maybe you don't think that. Maybe you think it's voters' rights. Like the Voting Rights Act has been diluted and chopped up and spit on and kicked to the curb, especially under Donald Trump. I thought that was part of it, like that free and clear elections. I thought that's why you put together that legislation to help clean up our elections, Tulsi. I thought you thought that was the main problem. A free, some way to track our elections, make sure they're actually fucking democratic. I thought that was something that was like at the top of the list. I didn't know that identity politics was at the top of the list for you. I mean, people, look, come on. I don't know. That's what I thought. I mean, it's like number 2 for me, because I figure if people taking money, then they really have their allegiance to the money that they take, and then we have voting rights where people don't get an actual way to count their vote, like the 200,000 people who were knocked off the voting rolls in New York, and the countless other incidents of voter tampering, alleged voter suppression, not alleged, the actual voter suppression, all of the shit we went through in 2016. I don't know, man. Are people that wrapped up that they don't see this is a problem, these statements here? Okay. What about gerrymandering? Yeah, what about gerrymandering where they redistrict shit so it helps them? Basically nullifying the vote of countless blacks, Latinos, and other people who might very strongly vote Democratic. What about that? They're basically rigging the system, rigging the vote. Cross-check. I mean, there's a lot of things. You really mean to tell me you think that somebody wanting to be able to get a cake where both the figurines are the same sex is like, I mean, it could be annoying if you're the cake maker. You might, not be able to use all your figurines. You got to use all the guy figurines on the cake or whatever. I mean, or if you're that weird woman with the bowl cut who didn't want to give the marriage, to give marriage decrees or whatever, the marriage licenses to the gay couple or whatever. I mean, I'm just trying to figure it out. So I disagree totally, man. I don't think identity politics is the main problem in our politics. I don't get it. And it makes me feel like Tulsi Gabbard only said that because she's on his show. I mean, I think most progressives would say money in politics. At least that's what I thought. I'm probably sure that the comment section is lit and people have a lot of conversation for it right now. But okay. Maybe part of the thing, and this is something I've come to, okay? I believe everything I just said wholeheartedly. That's how I feel about it. That was my initial reaction to it. But I also realized that my opinion or my view of identity politics may be different than yours, okay? And maybe it's different than Tulsi's. Maybe we're all not using the same definition for identity politics. But see, my version of identity politics is just groups of people who are aligned for whatever grievance or whatever issues that they have, and they want to champion or bring attention to those issues. And that doesn't necessarily have to be race or orientation or even religion. It could be people in my city who have a particular problem. Like not far from me, we got the casino. Would it be identity politics for people who identify, who happen to live in this location, to be more concerned with the element of people that are attracted by a casino, as opposed to people who come and visit, or as opposed to people in VA who live further away, who live driving distance from the type of environment that may create as far as crime, maybe an uptick of crime. Like these are things that have been a concern since that casino went up. So when I look at identity politics, I don't necessarily see it the same way other people see it. Then I was thinking, even to give it more nuance, I said, wow, what's going on college campuses? I'm not aware of it. Like, I don't deal with what's happening there. And I'm hearing that if someone says something you don't like on a college campus today, you don't even have to say, hey, I didn't like what you said. You can just report it. And when you report it, you don't even have to give your name, Johnson. You can just give an anonymous report of what you say happened, and then the person will be punished forthwith. And that to me is crazy. Like, there's no due process at all. And if that's how you see identity politics in your life or how you see it play out, then you may have a different interpretation of identity politics and how it impacts the country. But once again, even though I agree that that's horrendous, that's not politics. That's how people are using politics in other ways. Like when I think politics, I'm thinking elections. I'm thinking how we elect people. Not just weird rules people make up on college campuses. But I could see how a person could see that, like maybe Dave Rubin, who's giving lectures on college campuses, maybe to me, I agree more. I see Rubin's point of view on this a little bit better because, like, didn't he try to, like, speak a couple places and people were, like, shouting him down and saying he couldn't speak here, couldn't speak there. Didn't he try to bring on, like, Pete Buttigieg on his show? And then, like, people from Huffington Post like, you can't go on his show. If you go on his show, you're a right-winger, you're an alt-righter. And they're like, oh, man, this is messed up. Just want to have a conversation with the guy. And like, no. Then Pete pulled out and then Dave's like, damn, that was going to help my channel. That's going to help grow my audience. Damn, these people suck. So I see Dave's point, but I'm trying to understand why Tulsi Gabbard thinks identity politics is so horrible. You know, and I'm also going to say this. We all look at me, we know I'm a black guy. Unless you're blind, you know that. Even if you are blind, you can hear in my voice that there's black in this voice, okay? It's a little, no, it's more than a little. It's really jacked up that for 400 years, America's been practicing identity politics all this time. But it was just identity politics that suited white people. Like, you don't think it was identity politics when black people didn't have the same rights a horse had? Yeah, it was identity politics. It was just the other way. You didn't think it was identity politics when we had to, if I'm walking on the sidewalk and you're a white guy, you're walking on the sidewalk, I had to walk in the street? You don't think that was identity politics? Yeah, it was your identity, not mine. Or yes, it was not my identity that was X'd out. You know, the one that made my mom sit on the back of the bus, the one that made my parents think the best I could do was work construction like my stepfather because white people were never going to give me an opportunity to do anything else. Like that's how, like they were like trying to let me know that my heart's going to be crushed by this country. But at the end of the day, no matter how pissed off about it you get, black people and Latinos and Native Americans, we don't have any power to change any of it. We don't have any power to make your life unbearable. You beat me to it. Anyway, I understand culture wars. It's a very different challenge. I'm a person who's against political correctness to a certain extent. Like, I think people should be able to tell jokes. And I think you should be able to walk out if you don't like them. Or you should be able to not buy a ticket. That's how I look at it, Johnson. But unfortunately, everybody doesn't agree with me. So, anyway, back to Tulsi Gabbard, back to this. I'm a little disappointed that Tulsi Gabbard thinks our biggest problem in politics is identity politics. I could come up with so many other things. I just gave you 3 that I think supersede how people personally feel or supersede the mechanisms that people use. I mean, America's been using things to divide us from day one. If that's the case. Identity politics is a new term. It originated like in the 80s, right? America's been dividing us based on class and money and color and sex forever. It's not new. It's not something that's the most pressing thing in our politics today. You know, is identity politics. It's been here forever. It's just that the people that it was hurting weren't the majority or weren't the people that were used to having the power. Well, luckily, it's okay, Johnson. We're going to get through this. We don't have to agree on everything, right? No, we don't. We're going to get through this. Now, luckily, there was more said in this interview. More, and it makes me feel better that I have something that I can play of Tulsi in this interview that I feel good about. So, here it is.
That's not what's going to get you.
No.
Let's just jump back to the to that incident with Kamala. Were you setting up for that?
No. I mean, you know, I was obviously aware of the different issues. Criminal justice reform is something that I've been working on throughout my time in Congress, and I feel really strongly about. And you know, it's something that she talks about being very proud of, her record as Attorney General, and you know, the role that she had as prosecutor for San Francisco. And I felt it was important that she speak about how she is proud of the record that has really inflicted such harm on people and actually undermined the kinds of changes that we need to see in our criminal justice system. You know, because it speaks to the whole underpinning of her campaign.
Yeah.
She's running to be prosecutor, president, a prosecutor for the people. When she was actually the prosecutor for California, the decisions that she made actually ended up hurting people.
So what would you do for the non-violent drug offenders that are in jail now?
I think we need to expunge their records and to send them home. I think they're in jail because of a failed war on drugs. And we've got to recognize now how many generations have gone by who have fallen victim to this failed war on drugs. I've got the only bipartisan bill in Congress to end the marijuana prohibition. And we had a whole group of people who came out when we held the press conference to announce the introduction of this bill. And one of them, you know, there were veterans there who were talking about how folks coming back from multiple combat deployments, dealing with chronic pain, dealing with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, coming back to the VA only to be told, well, look, your only option is OxyContin or highly addictive opioids. And being federally prohibited from even giving them a referral in a state where medicinal marijuana is legal to go to a dispensary. They can't even do that.
Right, because that's all run by the Fed, where it's still illegal.
Right.
So that still supersedes the state on that?
Right, exactly. And so we talked about states' rights. I mean, this is a perfect example of how it's over 30 states at this point that have done some form of legalization of marijuana, whether it's just medicinal or full recreational. But all of those dispensaries, as well as the people who go there, the financial institutions, is a huge problem. They're all running on a cash market because banks are federally regulated and are afraid of federal prosecution. But that dark cloud of prosecution at the federal level hangs over everyone who touches any part of this. But you know, veterans are being hurt in the process. But there was a guy there who was talking about criminal justice reform. He was there. He was probably about 30, early 30s. And a little over 10 years ago, he was a college student studying computer science in Virginia. And he was charged with 2 marijuana violations. And because of Virginia's mandatory minimum laws, he got 2 back-to-back 5-year sentences. 10 years of his life gone.
Yeah.
And he was not, he took full responsibility for his actions. Wasn't trying to point fingers at anybody else, but he was there just to share his story because there are so many people with similar stories that just show how terrible our broken laws are and how this is a very sensible change that we can and should make very quickly that will immediately have a huge impact on people's lives.
Okay. Thank you, Tulsi. I like this one better. I like this. You know, I like it because I agree with it, right? See, that's the thing. You know, we like what we agree with. But this is human nature, right? I gotta hand it to her. This is what I'm talking about. Only thing I didn't like, about this clip, guys, and a lot of people may have missed it because in the very beginning of the clip, he said, "Hey, did you plan to hit Kamala Harris about her criminal justice record?" And she said, "No."
With Kamala. Were you setting up for that?
No.
She said no, she didn't. Now, come on, man. You didn't just come up with that off the top of your head. Like, we weren't talking about it, were we? Were they? I can't remember. But come on. I think Kamala planned to hit Biden. This is what I think, okay? I'm not in the campaign. I'm not privy to any information. I just feel Kamala planned to hit Joe Biden on the busing thing. I think it was a strategy play. Not saying it was wrong, But I think it was thought of, hey, we're going to hit Kamala. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think to suggest that it didn't cross your mind is all of a sudden in the debate, you got your gun loaded on like all the shit that Kamala did. And I'm so glad you did it, but come on, man. You didn't think to do that? Like that wasn't a plan to do that? I don't know. It just seemed like it was. That's all. Seemed like it was, Johnson. But that's my only thing. I'm so glad she did it. I'm glad she did it. All right, good. Thank you. I agree with it 100%. And the bipartisan legislation, the bill to end marijuana prohibition. I mean, come on, guys. I'm all for legalizing it. And she also explains why we need to do it, because people's lives, the way the lives have been impacted, we need to expunge records. People need to get an opportunity to participate in our society 100% and not be hindered by stupid drug laws from a failed drug war that disproportionately impacted poor people, poor black people, poor Latinos, poor Native Americans, poor people in general, poor white people too. You can get a charge too if you don't have a good lawyer. It's all about if you are this group who doesn't have access to the best defense, you're screwed. And in some cases, as the young man, as the person that Tulsi was describing, 20 years of his life gone. I got a feeling he was a guy without a lot of money. That's what I'm thinking, okay? Typically, money will help you out in a situation like that. So, look, there are many points that could be made in the conversation between Tulsi Gabbard and Dave Rubin. Hey, I don't got to agree with everything. I saw a couple comments in the super chat. People are voicing their opinions. After I do the next segment, before we close, I'm going to read those comments. I'm going to respond to it. I'm going to read what you have to say. It's fine, guys. Say what you want to say. If you support Tulsi Gabbard and you think identity politics, as David Rubin stated, is the biggest threat to our political process, well, go ahead and explain why you think that, and I'll read it. I disagree that it is the biggest threat to our politics. It's bad. It can be bad when it's manipulated and used as a wedge, right? Either Republicans, when they use it on the patriotic tip, on the nationalist tip, where they demonize people of immigrants, or when they demonize other people who are not them. That's a problem, right? It can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. And it's not the biggest problem. Now I want to go to my super chat and see what people have to say. I know this is going to be very interesting. Jackie says, love your show. Keep fighting a good fight. Oh, Jackie, my first comment is not Tim go to hell. You are crazy for saying that money and politics is our biggest threat to our politics. Yellow Vest says some people are just sipping on too much aloha to see reality. That's all I'm saying. Like, damn, dude. For real? I mean, I call out Al Sharpton every day for his complicity with the Democratic Party and being basically a coon sellout or whatever, right? But Al Sharpton ain't the biggest problem, him playing racial politics. He's been playing racial politics since the 60s. You can have multiple problems at the same time. Identity politics is destroying the country. Damn, it's destroying the country. It is turning people against each other. I support her for this. I don't know if that's what's destroying the country. Yeah, I thought it was corruption. I thought it was climate change. I thought it was mass incarceration. I guess it all depends on what's important to you. You know, I thought it was poverty and low wages. And Andrew Yang said it was robotics and automation. But I guess now, since Tulsi said it's identity politics, I guess that's what it is, huh? Ho Chi Minh. The problem with identity politics is when it says of the top richest people in the USA, at least 4 of them should be women of color. It's not that nihilism nonsense that is dividing us. Like, yeah, I don't agree with that because we don't know if the people had the same expertise. I'm telling you, running your own business is hard as hell. I know. Many of the times you see this show, I'm drinking coffee for a reason. Because I've been up 20 hours, right? Because if I don't do it, it don't get done, and I want to be viable. I want to be successful, and I've been at this for 6 years, and for the last 4 years, I've been on it. People know I'll be up till 5 o'clock this morning working. But I do think there are some impediments that are structurally make it harder for some groups of people to achieve, and we should do something about that. Because we had the ability to do it. If the richest country in the history of countries can't make a more level playing field so that all people have access, but not the same outcomes, right? Access. But guys, like, my access is not the same access as some other people. Mr. Oruki says, did you see TYT's video on Tulsi Rubin? No. One of the things I try to do is when I know I got especially when I got a hot button story, I try not to watch anything on it except the piece of content I'm going to be commenting on, because it'll cloud you, man. Like, I don't want to hear anybody else's. Certain stories are way too important for me to watch somebody else. I don't want them to affect me at all. I don't know. But see, I'm a person who's supportive of Tulsi. Notice how I had an issue that I disagreed with her on, and then I had something I supported her on. Because that's how I genuinely feel, right? Now, other people who are always knocking her or attacking or whatever you want to call it, whatever they're doing, right? We're going to be on a different side on this thing. So I wouldn't want to watch them anyway because I know where they're coming from. I know it's going to be tainted. You get what I'm saying? Next comment, I got one more comment. Antonio T says, I think Tulsi needs to challenge him more because she seemed to accept his premises, even if supports no, she doesn't fully agree with Rubin. Yeah, I can't give her that. I understand your point. I wish you would have pushed back and just clarified. I think that identity politics is a problem when it's misused. And here's why. But it seemed like maybe there was a reason why she didn't. And I think the reason why she didn't because she wanted things to go over well with his audience. And then, oh no, she didn't care about the audience. She didn't care. Well, she's on his platform. Who do you think she's talking to? All right? Like, okay. Like I said, I'd have been fine with it if she would have said, it is an issue. She interrupted him and said, I agree with you. He said it was the biggest issue in our politics was identity politics, that it's dividing the country. First of all, I don't like this whole premise that that's what's dividing the country. In fact, I could think of some times when we were a little bit more divided than we are now. There was this whole time period called segregation in Jim Crow. You may have heard of it. It preceded identity politics. In fact, identity politics was created because of segregation in Jim Crow. So get that shit right. So what about that, Johnson? But once again, when anything can be misused or overused and manipulated and ruined, right? So that premise is totally different. And if it would have been me with Dave Rubin, and I don't know why it isn't, I don't know why Dave Rubin hasn't had me on, I would have said that. And then we'd have had a conversation about why I feel that it's not the only problem we have. I'd have brought up corruption in politics. I'd have brought up gerrymandering and cross-check. Your name's Johnson and his name's Johnson. Uh-oh, someone's trying to vote twice. This is bullshit. So we're just going to pull everybody off the voting rolls whose last name is Johnson. I mean, that's what they were doing, man. That's a threat to our democracy. But somebody complaining about something about Kaepernick is bigger. Kyle said, Bernie seems to be selling his soul. He supported Russiagate, also did not back up Tulsi. In that interview, he specifically asked Tulsi Gabbard, did the DNC rig it against her, the polls rigged? She didn't say yes. She said, there needs to be more transparency. But you think that Bernie was supposed to say something harsher. I don't know. I wish he would have. That would have been nice. But there's a reason why neither Bernie or Tulsi, neither one of them are saying the things you think that Bernie should say. And she was on a right-wing guy's broadcast and wouldn't say it. But you think that Bernie should have said it on The View. I'm just saying, man, you can't have it both ways. Just saying. All right, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.